Hey, and welcome to The Solid Verbal. Now would be a perfect time to consider subscribing. Yeah, that little subscribe button for year-round premium college football content. That's it. Here's the video. Enjoy. Subscribe.
Where do you want me to start here?
Whatever. You're the director here, Ty. You're the executive producer, wherever you think the storyline begins.
Well, the storyline begins and ends for me with the Big 12 with the Texas Longhorns. The Texas Longhorns, for better or worse, of course, they didn't win the division. Of course, they didn't win the conference last year the way Baylor did. Far from it, 5-7 for the Texas Longhorns. But there has certainly been so much written about, so much talked about the Texas Longhorns this offseason that I felt like we had to start here. You can't tell the story of the Big 12 in 2022 without talking about the Texas Longhorns. This is a team with high upside, with a lot of excitement. Frankly, we don't know where it's going to go. Frankly, there's Seth, the character Seth, played by Jonah Hill.
Okay.
In Superbad. And I can't explain why, but the story of Texas last season was that they lost 6 straight games after going off to a 4-1 start. It was their longest losing streak in 65 years. Both their offensive line and their defense, particularly their run defense, were comically bad last season. They had no real vertical passing game to speak of, and there was a lot wrong. So in the offseason, Steve Sarkisian said, hey, we got to fix it. We got to fix it. He brought in 35 new scholarship players in the offseason, which means a lot of turnover, a time of great tumult, a time of great hope and prospect, and I think excitement about what the future could hold in store. That's where we are in 2022 with the Texas Longhorns. There are a couple interesting storylines within Texas that I think warrant mentioning. First and foremost, probably going to see Quinn Ewers as the starting quarterback. I say probably because we don't know for sure. Hudson Card is still there, even though it seems as if Quinn Ewers is going to be the guy for at least 1 year. Remember, Arch Manning will soon be nipping at his heels, but for the time being, 2022, I think Quinn Ewers is going to be the man. Offensively, they've also got Bijan Robinson, probably the best running back in the country. Roschon Johnson is also in the backfield. They're loaded in the backfield. Again, a lot of potential. And out wide, they're still very, very good. Xavier had this breakout campaign last season. He led the team in targets. He led the team in catches and in yards. It wasn't particularly close. Jordan Whittington is back this season, but needs to stay healthy. Isaiah Nair, my boy, transfers down from Wyoming. He's sort of my pick as the breakout wide receiver on this team. We already know about Xavier Worthy. And Jaleel Billingsley.
True.
We talked a lot about Jaleel Billingsley. We talked a lot about Jaleel Billingsley coming over from Alabama. He has, I think, an opportunity to be a real contributor at the tight end position.
Sure.
The offensive line looks pretty good. Like, there's a lot to like about this offense. But there is this sort of black cloud over the defense, is there not?
I would argue yes.
The defense last year was pretty damn bad. They couldn't stop the run. The defense this year, I think, brings back enough to be dangerous, enough to make you feel hopeful about what the future holds in store. The line, in particular, brings back 6 guys. Steve Sarkisian told The Athletic that they're buying into the new line coach's system. Aren't they always buying into the new line coach's system or the old new line coach's system? They got to fix the run defense. They got to fix the pass rush. They got to fix the secondary as well, because this is a secondary that...
Sorry, you just said they have to fix? Well, they do have to fix this one thing. And then this other thing. And then, of course, there is the final thing that can be fixed on the defense. So they have to fix everything, is what you're saying.
Everything on the defensive side of the ball, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, okay.
They've got to fix a lot on the defensive side of the ball and figure out exactly who they are, whether that's in the trenches with their pass rush, with their run defense, whether that's at the back end of the defense, which lacks experience but has options. I think the story of this Texas team will truly be about defense, and the offense will provide enough firepower. It is really a function of how good can that defense be? Can the defense settle into what everybody thinks it needs to be in order to get to greater heights within the Big 12 this year, within the SEC moving forward, within the national conversation as it relates to Texas as a true contender? I I picked out Seth and Jonah Hill's character because he was always the most combustible, and he was always the one who I think provided the comic relief in a scene in Superbad. And Texas has, for better or worse, assumed that role over the last decade or so within the Big 12. This is their opportunity to grow out of that, to become something a little bit more stable. And I am optimistic for Steve Sarkisian that can happen, but I don't know for sure. It needs to start with the defense, even though there's so much firepower and so much name brand potential on offense.
Yeah, much like most Judd Apatow movies, the premise is usually stronger than the execution. And the first half, a la Texas games, tends to be a lot stronger than the second half of Judd Apatow movies, Ty. So your choice here could not have been better. You really nailed it. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. Yeah, the Texas story is going to be great. Whatever happens, they have a lot to fix. The talent is there, and I will be watching. But they're not the class of the conference to me. Like,
no, they're not.
There's nothing, like, if you have a question at quarterback and a question at defense, you're a non-factor. No matter what the premise of what a Sark offense could be, like, to me, the story of these teams is new coaches in Baylor. That's, like, Texas is what they have been for the past decade. They just, the premise is there, but the execution isn't.